First, thank you from the bottom of my heart to every one of you who reached out, who called, who came and visited. When we had cell phone service restored, one of the very first text messages I found was from my seatmate, our floor leader, checking on me, making sure that we were okay. It means a lot. I don't think I ever saw myself in a situation where we would feel so desperate and so exhausted. But every one of your calls, every one of your texts, and especially for so many people in this room who I cannot even start listing them all. I saw drive hours to come up and help us and get muddy with us and bring things and ask what else can I bring, and came multiple times. Thank you all so much for doing that. We appreciate you. And to the families of those who've lost loved ones, I'll say that we love you and we will be here for you. And I know that everyone in this chamber shares those feelings with me, that we want to be there to help them pick the pieces back up, and that our hearts and prayers are with them. For those of us from Eastern Kentucky who came down here for this special session, the weight is very heavy on our shoulders. It's always a heavy weight to represent people who need a lot. We have a lot of poverty in our area, and we carry that heavy weight with us every day. But the weight is especially heavy right now because our people need so much help. But we have figured out that we come from darn good stock in Eastern Kentucky. I have never been so proud of the people I represent. I don't know how many times my heart can break from hearing a tragic story and then swell with pride at how wonderful they've been to one another, to help one another. I don't know how many times it can break and then swell and break and then swell before it busts open. But it's been a lot. And I know a lot of you all been right there with us, hearing the stories, helping, coming down and actually seeing what a flood smells like. And we're tough in Eastern Kentucky. We survived the Hurricane Creek mine disaster in 1970, killed 38 people. The Scotia mine disaster in 1976 in my own county killed 27 people. Flooding in 1957 took 9 lives. 1977's flood hit 15 counties and took 10 lives. There was a slurry spill in Martin County that contaminated the water supply for 27,000 people. We survived the Broad Form Deed. We survived bloody Union battles where people faced starvation in order to make better lives for their families. And we're learning to survive the loss of coal jobs and the downturn in our economy and the loss of population that resulted. But this is different. This is catastrophic. This is enormous for our little counties and our people who already didn't have much. This is a whole new level. So when I woke up Thursday morning, a lot of you all have heard stories already about what our day was like. We woke up on Thursday, July 28th, to no Wi-Fi, no cell signal. And we had gotten flash flood warnings. We get those a lot. But we don't flood. My county, we get very small, very localized, maybe one little area floods a little bit, but we had no idea what had hit us. Got up and put on a dress and heels because I had court that morning, and left the house to realize that I couldn't get a quarter mile from my house. The road was a lake. I'd go the other way, same thing. Then I noticed neighbors flagging me down. Hey, do you have life jackets? Do you have a kayak at your house? What do you have? And then I realized, I look over into the Cottletown area, the water's to the roofs. So I run home and change clothes, get my kids. They're 18 and 21. And we spent the rest of the day going from house to house, helping every way we could in the little area that we could get to with the way the water was up in the roads. We couldn't call for help. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal. If we could call for help, nobody could get to us. A state police commander lives in Whitesburg, and for about 6 hours, Claude Little's mother-in-law was missing. No one knew where she was for 6 hours. Thank God Arlena's safe. He sent everything he had. He sent helicopters, swift boat rescue, Humvees, everything he had to eastern Kentucky. They couldn't get to us. Imagine how he was feeling. His house was destroyed. So my kids and I went to neighbors' houses, even ones we knew who were on vacation. If they had kayaks, we'd take them knowing they'd be okay with that later. And we went from house to house trying to help people. I wasn't actually in a kayak. I'm not the best choice. I'm 5'1" and almost 50. Can't really lift my neighbors. But what we did was find chainsaws, find life jackets, help people in and out of canoes, find who needed help next, take charge of the pets when people would save pets. I'd hand them to my daughter, and she'd help the other teenage girls. It was some coal miners, a mechanic or two, a bunch of women, and a whole bunch of really brave teenagers. We didn't have rescue equipment, and we didn't have training. Didn't know what we were doing. All we knew was that our neighbors needed help. So we helped everyone we could. And every single one of them, as soon as they were rescued, without regard to the fact that their house had just been destroyed, they didn't have shoes, they didn't have wallets, they'd lost their cars. The second they were rescued, they joined the effort to help their neighbors. One couple that we love so dearly lived right beside of the elementary school, Bob and Debbie. They were on their porch, and Debbie's in a wheelchair, and the water was so swift in the playground of West Whitesburg Elementary School that we couldn't get them with kayaks. And we had to wait for something motorized. And we waited and waited and helped everyone we could while we were waiting. Finally, someone showed up with a little john boat, a little fishing boat with a trolling motor. And the motor wasn't really strong enough to get across that current, but some brave people did it. My brother crossed the current in a kayak while his wife and I screamed for him to please not do it. And we watched his face and didn't think that he'd be able to do it, but somehow, I guess through adrenaline, he did. He got over, he checked on him, but we had to wait on the motorized boat to get him back across. By the time we got to Debbie, she's in her wheelchair on her front porch with water to here. We get her out. She hands me a wet blanket when we're helping her out of the boat, and it's wriggling, and I finally figure out it's a cat. But I handed that off to my daughter, and she took charge, and then as soon as we got that whole family safe, we rushed to the next one. Some heroes got through the raging water somehow with a trailer and a truck. Tony and Chandra Adams got through with jet skis. And we took that jet ski and got to the Goins family, who were sitting on their roof, steep roof, all morning long, screaming for help, and got them one by one. Every house we went to, people would fight over who would go first, not let me go first, you go first, you go first, you go first. Mothers, children, husbands and wives, insisting that the other go first. I could go on and on and on, and believe me, there are 100 more of these stories, thousands more of these stories. For every one of those destroyed houses you've been seeing on TV, there is a tragedy, a fight for survival, a struggle for the most basic human thing, fighting for life. But there's also the story of a hero, and every one of those stories should have been an article in the Herald Leader and the Courier Journal and a story on CNN. Every one of them by themselves was an amazing story of heroism. And I hope we get a chance one of these days to hear every one of those stories, because every one of them deserves to be recognized. I think we're going to have at least one citation today for one of the heroes, but there are so many, and it was the most amazing thing to watch people be there for each other. I don't want to talk all day because we need to pass this bill, and we need to get the Senate's waiting on us, so I'll try not to talk all day. But what we didn't know until late afternoon while we were running around trying to just get everyone to safety is that this had hit all of eastern Kentucky. At least 6 counties would be declared to have a federal emergency. Lots of other counties were hit as well. In Letcher County alone, we lost 4 schools, 24 school buses, the entire Board of Education, 6 police cruisers, the entire rescue department, all the dumpsters in the city, all the garbage trucks. The state highway department is gone. The local highway department is gone. Water lines for 3,800 houses. Sewer system completely lost in the city of Fleming Neon, which means 100% river discharge. And every time it rains, that sewage is back up in yards. 2/3 of our county roads are damaged severely, and other counties are just as bad. I went through Breathitt County. It looks like a tsunami. It looks like a bomb went off. These people are hurting. By now, you've seen the pictures and you've seen the videos and heard interviews with people. What you might not know, though, is that since we don't flood in most of these areas, only between 1% and 2.5% of these people had any type of flood insurance. And I had that confirmed at our banking and insurance meeting yesterday. We're still counting the victims. We don't know how many houses have been partially or fully destroyed. What we do know is that people are, some of them refusing to leave their land, so they're living in tents with their children. One family was reportedly living on a trampoline. A lot of people are living in unsafe houses. They're living upstairs because the downstairs is destroyed. They're trying to seal it off while they work on it, but they're smelling all this. We have a lot of pulmonary disorders anyway in eastern Kentucky, so it's really not a good idea for them to be living with all this mold. But thanks to bipartisan support from all over the state and the quick action of our governor to call us into session, it's less than 30 days since the event, and it's been a long, almost 30 days, but less than 30 days, here we are, and we're able to send about $213 million back east for help. And we learned from dealing with the tornadoes in the west how to do things better, more quickly, and we're getting help to them faster and more effectively. This bill will give money for temporary housing. It'll give money for our local governments to continue to run because they're all nearly bankrupt. They've had to spend all their money that they needed for other things on emergency supplies, getting water lines back up, getting roads back up. So we're going to be able to keep them afloat. And I wish we had more money in here for housing. I do. And I thank the senator from Perry for his amendment that he attempted to file, and I know his heart was in the right place. And I thank every single person who has called me to ask about housing in this bill, and I thank every one of you who've gotten the same calls and come to me and asked me about it. The truth is we do have money for housing in this bill. We have temporary housing. We have 94 FEMA trailers already on the ground, or these camper trailers. We have at least 100 more on the way, and we have access to more. We're looking for sites to put them in. We do have temporary housing in the bill, and we have money to build the water lines, get the sewer systems in place for new communities up off of these creeks where we can start rebuilding. So all of that money is toward housing. I wish we could spend every dime we've got on housing. I would. I want to help every one of these people, and I know you guys too want to do that too, but we don't have a plan for how we could repair personal homes, or if we can, if that's legal, and if it is legal, because we haven't ever done that before, how do we do it equitably? How would it be done fairly? So I know everyone who's asked me about housing and who's worried about housing in this bill has their heart is in exactly the right place, and it's a really good question, and I hope we can find more help long term and that we have a plan. But for now, it's been less than 30 days. We're still counting how many houses are destroyed, partially or fully. We're not ready for that stage yet. And I know the others from Eastern Kentucky share my feelings about that. We're not neglecting that part. We absolutely feel for you. We're just not ready for that part yet. But I have faith in the Mountain Caucus. I identify more as Mountain Caucus than either party's caucus, and I think a lot of us feel that way. Darn good bunch of people, and I'm very proud to be part of them. We've loved each other through this. We've cried together. We've helped each other's counties. Not a one of us has mentioned politics, county lines, or party lines. I'm real proud of them. And I trust the people in this room, who I know to be overwhelmingly good people, to find long-term solutions for these problems. And we will figure it out. We're going to do everything we can at the state level. At the federal level, I struggle to have confidence. We've been told that no additional money will be asked for at the federal level because they've sent us enough at the state level. If they won't send more money, I am begging our representatives in Washington to please reform FEMA. My people are insulted with the offers they're getting. These people have worked so hard, just like all of your constituents have worked so hard for everything they've got in their lives, especially the coal miners. They have broken their backs and ruined their lungs to feed their families and buy nice things that their family needed, only to watch everything that they've worked for float down the creek or piled up in big muddy piles in their yard. They don't have any flood insurance because they didn't live in a floodplain, wasn't even offered to them. And then FEMA comes in and gives them an offer for $195 or $2,200 or nothing because they didn't dot an I or cross a T. They don't have a middle name. The deed's in the name of their deceased spouse. Everybody has to appeal. You have to jump through hoops. They don't have a place to live. They don't have driver's licenses. They can't find their deeds. And they're insulted. And they're hurting, and it makes it worse. And even the ones who get the full amount, $37,000, will not rebuild more than maybe your garage and your driveway. It's not going to touch what you've lost. Now, I don't believe that the government should feed and clothe and house you for your entire life, especially if you're able-bodied. I don't believe that. I don't think that's what we need. And I actually believe that whenever possible, we should pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But our bootstraps just washed down the creek. Can't even find them right now. And we need for FEMA to be effective. We need it to take less time, and we need it to be fair. And for our federal delegation who came to visit us, thank you so much. We had really good conversations. You really listened. You came out and spoke to people and saw the damage and offered help. But we really need you to vow to fix FEMA or give us another solution that will actually help without insulting these people who've just lost so much. For everyone who just wants to talk about who's helping us the most or make this political, I will say help or hush. Don't let Eastern Kentucky cross your mouth if you're just talking about who benefits from this or whose fault it is. Help us or don't talk about us. In the long term, we're going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild our communities. We're going to build new communities up off of these creeks. We're going to flood-proof our bridges. We're going to do real financial incentives for economic development in this area, hopefully to build housing, modular homes, quick housing, things like that, and employ people while we rehouse people. And I hope we're able to figure out how to stop us from losing population, because in a lot of these areas, that paid-for house you inherited from your grandfather in the coal camp is the only thing keeping you there when there aren't good jobs available. I want us to look at everything that's wrong and take a very broad approach to fixing it all. This can be the disaster that ended us, or it can be a catalyst for real change to make Eastern Kentucky an easier place to live. We love it. We love it. We don't want to live anywhere else. We love it, and our people love it, and we love them. But it's not a very easy place to live ever. And it's sure not easy right now. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you all for supporting this bill and for all the other ways you've supported us. And God bless every one of you.